Welcome everyone, Marissa, you too, everyone, to
hmm
this evening's presentation, and it's called Why Savvy People Are Moving to Precious Metals. My name is David LeBlanc. I'm a precious metals coach and a money mindset mentor. And what I do is I help people with financial literacy and education and inspiration to help them learn more about gold, silver, and platinum and what it means to them, what it could mean to them, and how they could get started in building some more financial independence, choice, and freedom into their lives. So, in this presentation, I've scheduled 45 minutes. I want to save enough time for lots of Q's and A's, and I've recorded the session, but I'm going to stop recording at the live Q&A section so individuals attending today can ask their questions without it being recorded. So what we're going to cover today in this presentation is something that often can't be found out there in the investment financial world is a conversation, discussion about physical precious metals. I'm finding that in the investment community, it's difficult to find qualified people who are ready and willing to talk about precious metals and the options out there that may be right for you. So we're going to get into a little bit of that in this presentation. Going to talk a little bit about sound money, which are precious metals, and how long that they've been around, and they've been around since almost the dawn of time. What exactly are precious metals? Often there's some misnomers or misinterpretations about exactly what they are, so we'll kind of maybe demystify that and build the case why own them in the first place, and particularly why these days. So, what are some of the conditions, in my opinion, out there today that I feel that make it very, very compelling to own physical precious metals, given what's going on in the world? And then we'll take a bit of a practical turn to talk about how one can actually get started. Because sometimes when you get into something new, you just don't know enough. And then fear and confusion can set in, and often you do nothing, you procrastinate. So I want to get into a little bit about some of the practical ways, how to get started, some considerations about what are some pricing out there, how to price properly, where to buy safely, and even some storage options that could make sense. And then we'll get into the live Q&A section of the presentation. So, very briefly, I don't want to get into the history of gold and silver, or else we will be here for thousands of years, just like it's been.
hmm
But it's literally been used as money for people since 3000 BC. It's been used as a store of wealth for people to get paid. They would get paid in gold and silver for their labor, whether you're a blacksmith or a farmer, and even used by kings and queens to store the wealth of the realm to help pay for armies and used as means of trade and barter and commerce for civilizations. And this idea of fiat dollars, and what is fiat dollars? It's basically man-made currency. It's made by governments, and that idea and fiat dollars have really only been around very recently compared to how long physical precious metals have been around, really since the early 1900s. Um, and initially for practical reasons, because it was very difficult as the Industrial Revolution was moving along for companies to maybe every week have to pay their workers or employees in gold and silver. It was just logistically challenging. So many companies would actually issue their own um, paper currency and the employee would take it down to the bank and trade it in for the equal amount of gold or silver. And then governments got into the game of issuing dollars, like the Federal Reserve in the United States. And then more and more countries started to print money, but it was still backed by gold and silver up until 1971, when Nixon in the US removed the requirement that dollars be backed by the equivalent amount of gold. And of course, what we've seen since then, only since the 70s, I mean, this we're not talking about a long time here. We've seen the ability of governments to be able to print as many dollars as they wish at the stroke of a pen, and more recently at the push of a button on a computer. And of course, we are all living with the symptoms of this change in policy where money does no longer have to be backed by precious metals. And then we're living now with constant inflation. We're living with massive amounts of government debt, unprecedented amounts of government debt that I know I've never seen in my lifetime. Inflation, the depreciation of the dollar, and some other growing concerns, such as lack of financial privacy and some other things that I think we're all getting concerned about over the past few years. So this is one example of a dollar bill that one would be paid, but you would take it to the bank, and as you can see, you could exchange it for a piece of silver because that was money back then. The dollar, the physical paper, was just a means to an end. It's a promissory note. And of course, as I mentioned in 1971, that need to back the dollar by gold went away. So, in my view, and in the view of Peter Schiff, if anyone is familiar with the gold universe, the biggest risk today is inflation. And what exactly is inflation? Well, it's basically by design. It's basically the government telling us every year that they're going to devalue our currency. And it's often at a rate of 2%, 3%. And I think we all have heard of that over the years, and we probably thought nothing of it. And most of us were satisfied to hear that, oh, it's only 2%. But we have to understand that it is 2% every single year. And of course, over the past few years, it's been way more than that. And that means that, the store of value of our labor is depreciating. So if you worked and got paid over the past 2 weeks, the value of your labor is not stored 100% in the fiat dollars that you're holding. Over time, it's being devalued. And we're seeing a federal budget here in Canada about to be released. We're hearing of massive spending, unprecedented debt, deficits and growing the debt, and more money printing. We saw interest rates go down today. And again, while most people would think that lowering interest rates is a good idea, what that is, it's a signal that the economy is not doing well and the government is trying to stimulate a sickening economy with lower interest rates. So it is not a good sign. And of course, printing money makes more dollars out there in supply, and it decreases the value of our purchasing power. So here we can see that in 1910, when the dollar, in this case, US dollar, was backed by gold, it was worth $25. And then in 1971, when the gold standard was removed, we have really seen the depreciation of the dollar, and we're almost at zero. Here, this goes to 2020, move that out to the future, maybe another 10 years, and we're almost at the value of $100 going to zero in about 100 years. And that's typically how long a currency lasts.
Hmm.
So, what are precious metals? Well, they are gold, silver, and platinum and palladium. So gold is probably the most common one that most people are familiar with, and it's used mostly in jewelry, in investment coins and bars. It's used in electronics and some technology, and a lot of it is actually held by central banks in their reserves. And you've probably heard that central banks have been hoarding gold, particularly over the past 4 or 5 years. Countries such as Russia, China, Poland, Turkey, India are buying up gold to store for themselves, which makes me wonder, why are they doing that? And maybe, we should be looking at doing the same. Silver. So, silver, unlike gold, while it is a store of value and a hedge against inflation, it has even more uses to society because it is the most used of all the precious metals. Has a huge industrial component whereby it's used in a huge variety of electronics, such as EV batteries, all kinds of electronic devices, our phones. medical devices, we see it in clothing, we see it in jewelry, and of course, we see it in investment grade coins and bars. And the third one that we don't too often talk about, platinum and palladium, because they are different, but they have the same kind of use. They're used mostly because they have such a high melting point. They're used mostly in catalytic converters in jewelry and industrial applications. So those are the three precious metals. So why would we want to own them and why now? So as I mentioned, gold and silver have been real money for thousands of years. And unlike fiat dollars, which just get printed and it is debasing the value of our wealth, you can't print gold and silver at the push of a button. There's a finite amount in the Earth's crust, right? So by owning some means that you have something in your hand that can't be taken away. It's a store of value. And I'll talk a little bit about more in a minute. It has an inflation protection. So, like I said, you can't print more gold and silver. So it holds its value, unlike a dollar, which just gets devalued. It offers financial privacy. For example, we are seeing a disturbing trend towards lack of financial privacy with our financial transactions being closely tracked and monitored, seeing people getting debanked, bank accounts being frozen in some cases, talk of central bank digital currencies, digital IDs. So there's a growing trend, even with crypto, a growing trend of this digital universe on the financial side of things that could lead to less privacy. So owning physical gold and silver can get you a little more out of the system. Also, owning them can be an investment. I don't see them as an investment primarily. I see them as a means for savings, a means for everything I've listed to this point, but they can also be used as an investment. And as we've seen this year, being in gold and silver and even platinum has been the best performing asset class compared to the S&P 500 and the TSX. So it can be a very good investment as well during certain conditions, and those conditions are what we're living in right now with massive spending, massive debt, and inflation. Even though inflation is advertised at about 2 or 3%, I think when we go down to the grocery store or we book a hotel room or we fill up the gas tank, we all know it's more like 8, 9, 10, 12%. So what's being advertised is not reality. And lastly, it can also be used for generational wealth, something that is transferred to the next generation because it holds its value over time. So here's a really good example. These are both valued at $20, but are they really? So on the left is a gold coin. In this case, is from the 1930s. And I always use the story where back then, if you had this gold coin, which had a value of $20, you could buy yourself a really nice hat, a really nice suit, a nice pair of shoes, and a nice tie. That same coin today, even though it still has a denomination of $20, it's worth its weight in gold. And its weight in gold is worth about $5,600 Canadian today. That's the spot price for gold. So, what does that mean? It means that with that same gold coin, you can still today buy yourself a very nice hat, a very nice suit, a very nice tie, and a very nice pair of shoes. And we can't say that with that piece of paper on the right, that fiat dollar that has a number on it of 20. It certainly has lost its value since 1930. $20 back in 1930 was worth way more than it is today. So which one would you rather own? So how do you get started with precious metals? When I coach my clients and when I talk to family and friends, the first thing I ask people is why? Why are you interested? What do you want to get out of it? What are your expectations for it? And often people will answer and say to me, "Well, I'm looking for some financial security because, the markets are wobbly or there's lots of geopolitical chaos going on out there." And others will say, "Well, I like to be a little more out of the system. I'm getting worried about the direction where things are going." Or they're looking maybe to leave a legacy for their kids or grandchildren by leaving behind a good stack of gold and silver. So, the first thing that I always suggest to people is to ask yourself, why am I interested? What do I want to get out of it? Because as soon as you have an answer to that, that can help you get down to the next few questions, which would be things like, well, what kind would I buy? Would I buy just gold? Would I buy just silver? Would it be a blend of each? And then how much of each? And then what kind, right? Because there are many, many different kinds of gold and silver, from coins, from rounds to bars. And I'll talk about each one in a minute. And at the end of that, you can walk away with a what I call a personal precious metals plan, which can help you to understand what kinds and how much of each and which weights that may be right for you. Safe storage. Storage is often a big question that people get into. Um, there are a variety of ways to store it. The first one could be at a safety deposit box at the bank. That's often one that people come up with right away. And in my view, that's the least desirable one. And why is that? Well, first of all, I know for me, when I buy physical precious metals, I want to make sure that I have access to them. If for some reason I need to use them, I need them for whatever reason it is, I want to be able to access them easily and quickly. The banks aren't always open when I may need them. They have bank hours. It could be a holiday. It could be closed for some reason. So that's one reason. Probably the more important reason is they're not insured. Your contents of your safety deposit box are not insured. So if there's a fire or a robbery at the bank and your gold and silver are stolen from your deposit box, you're out of luck. And I don't like that either. So in my view, that's not a great option. Another option is to pay for vaulted storage, which means that this is hiring or using a company that is in business to store physical precious metals in its vault. And when you're considering something like that, you want to make sure you want to do your homework and you want to make sure to look for a few things. First thing is it's segregated, which means that is my gold or silver just being thrown in with everyone else, or is literally in a bucket with my name on it that is segregated to me? So my precious metals are in my name on a shelf that I can also visit when I want during the year. That's another important factor. Is it audited? We want to make sure that what's there is still yours, that has your name on it, and what they say and how much is in there is still there. Again, it's not the greatest option because it's not in your hands, but it's better than a safety deposit box. When it comes to vaulted storage, there's often a fee associated with that. It's usually a percentage of the value of your metals. But in some cases, it could be an option for someone who doesn't want a safety deposit box and maybe doesn't want to store it at home and maybe doesn't want to store it in another country, which is another option, offshore storage. It's the same kind. It's a secure vaulted storage, but it's stored in another country. Let's say, for example, you're not certain that the country you're living in is safe, and you want to make sure that your gold and silver is held in a safer country elsewhere, whether it's Switzerland or the Cayman Islands or Bermuda. There are options for you there. And the last option is to store it at home. And in some cases, this could be the best option. The closer it is to you, often the better it can be for whatever reason that you need them. But there are good ways to go about it and the wrong ways to go about it. People often start with thinking about a safe, and that could be a good place to start. But I like to think of it, I guess, in more comprehensive manner. For example, think of home security. So, do you have good lighting around your outside of your home? Outside, do you have hedges that are trimmed so no one can hide, burglars can't hide in the hedges at your windows. Maybe you have a dog. So think of perimeters. Think of making it difficult to access the home to begin with. If storage at home is something that you're interested in, look for a safe that is TL rated. I do not like the ones you get at Costco and Staples that are $200 to $300. There are videos out there on YouTube which show that you can break into those things in about 8 to 10 seconds. So you want to look for a TL rated safe, and that's theft proof. And they start at TL 15 and go to TL 30 and above. And what that means is that, say, a TL 15 rated safe, it means that it takes about 15 minutes for a professional thief to get into it, right? TL 30 will take about 30 minutes. So if you have a significant amount of metals at home, and that number is going to be whatever is relevant to you, sometimes even just owning 1 ounce gives people the shakes. And so that means maybe off-site storage may be an option for them. And others, it could mean hundreds of ounces. It depends on everyone's comfort level and their physical situation. Of course, it depends on the city they're in, the neighborhood they're in, right? There's all these considerations. But if you're looking for a safe, start with ones that are TL rated. So that's how to get started. What is out there? So this is kind of the fun part. This is where we all know about online shopping. This is the fun part of it.
Mhm.
There are so many different types of gold and silver out there that starting with the wrong one can set you back. So I always suggest to people to start with either
It's
coins,
7:30.
bars, or rounds. And what are the differences? A coin is a gold or silver platinum piece that is minted by a sovereign government. So here in Canada, it'd be the Royal Canadian Mint. In the US, it'd be the US Mint. In the UK, it'd be the Royal Mint, and so on and so forth. So it's minted by a sovereign mint, plus it has a denomination on it. And because it has a denomination on it, it's considered money, which means that you can actually spend it. So in the picture here on the left, this one here is a 1 ounce Canadian maple leaf coin. It has a denomination of $50. You could actually spend it. People would take it, businesses would accept it as money for $50. Of course, you would never want to do that because it's literally worth its weight in gold. Like I said before, an ounce today is worth about $5,600. So starting with the coins of the country that you live in is typically a good place to start. You can look for those. So in Canada, there's the maple leaf coins, silver and gold. In the US, there's eagles. In the UK, there's Britannias, and there's other mints in Austria and Australia and South Africa. So that's the difference between a coin and looking at bars. Bars are literally just bars that are not, usually don't have a denomination on them. And they come in various sizes. And I'm showing here a 1 kilo bar. This is a 10 ounce bar. It's a 10-gram gold. And this is a 1 ounce a gold bar from the Royal Canadian Mint. And this one here, even though it's minted by the Royal Canadian Mint, there's no denomination on it. Therefore, it's not considered a coin. So even though a bar could have a denomination on it, it could be still considered a coin, just to confuse you. So those are the differences between a coin and a bar and a round. So lastly, the last category I'll talk about are rounds. And basically they are silver, gold, or platinum pieces that do not have a denomination on them. And that's because they're minted by a private mint. There are lots of private mints out there in the world, such as Pomp Suisse, Valcambi, Asahi, Scottsdale, Sunshine. They're all very high quality, very reputable mints. And they're not able to put a denomination on them because they're not authorized to print money. That is the job of the mint of the government mint. So it's still the same quality. They just don't have a denomination on them, which is no big deal because you're not going to spend it for the face value anyway. You're only interested in the value of the coin itself. So that's basically the compelling reason I think that people should be considering physical precious metals today. The brief history behind them, the reasons why owning them today, I feel like are more compelling than ever, given the unprecedented amount of government debt, the money printing, the growing trend of financial privacy, a lack of financial privacy, and I think the growing interest of people looking for more financial options that are less digital, more that they can hold in their hand that maybe could be tax preferred, but also something too that could be handed over to the next generation, which actually holds their wealth against inflation. We're seeing lots of news items which are saying things like gold and silver at all-time highs. I feel like the average person is getting wind of maybe precious metals for the first time. They may have never heard of them before, or maybe heard a little bit, but maybe didn't really understand what they were exactly. Um, Maybe there's a bit of misunderstanding between physical precious metals and maybe owning a precious metals mutual fund or a precious metals ETF. Again, in those two cases, you don't actually hold the physical, you just own a piece of paper along with thousands of other people. So again, if you don't hold it, then you really don't own it. So hopefully I've been able to demystify some of the myths around gold and silver and offer a compelling reason why I think more and more people really should take a look at considering why these may be good for them and their families. And what I do is I offer coaching. I offer a 1 hour single consultation, which gives you the opportunity to ask all of your burning questions that you may have that's specific to your situation and get my opinions and insights and experiences that helped answer those questions and what I would do maybe in your case. And it's a really nice way to get some, like I said, get some real answers because it's difficult to find really honest and unbiased information about precious metals out there today. And to help you maybe build a little bit of your knowledge and build your confidence to, like I said, to determine if precious metals may be right for you. And then I offer a more comprehensive precious metals coaching package. It's 3 1 hour sessions, and you walk away with a personalized precious metals plan, which is personalized to your situation, which gets into whether you want to get into gold and or silver or platinum, how much of each you would get, what sizes, are they coins, are they bars, are they rounds? Are they 1 ounce? Are they 5, 10 ounces or more? And maybe even how often that you would want to acquire them. So often people will take a percentage of their paycheck and swap it into precious metals or on a monthly basis or quarterly. So it's a real comprehensive wealth building strategy with me by your side so you can actually walk away with owning your first ounces with confidence and peace of mind, knowing that you're doing it the right way, you're getting what you need and want at a reasonable price, and have good options for storage as well. So that's it for my presentation, and I would love to open it up now to questions and answers. So I'm going to pause the recording